I'm Tobias from Australia, and welcome to Thorin's YouTube channel. It's a joke-free zone.
If this Team Liquid lineup doesn't win either IEM Katowice, which is taking place right now, or ESL Rio, the major, then I think it's time to fire Adren. He's had his chances with this lineup. He's obviously been with the team since the beginning of 2019. The lineup is so good in terms of potential, in terms of the players in it, that it demands that trophies be won, and that is not happening. Because the problem is, after that amazing summer run of last year, one of the most dominant we've ever seen in history, this team has not won a trophy since the end of that run, since IEM Chicago, which was before the major. They've had lots of semis and finals, but no trophies. They've lost to Astralis every time from the major onwards, no matter how close. And while at the same time, a number of other teams have beaten Astralis. I think something like 5 teams. You've got Evil Geniuses did it 3 times, once when they were in RG. Fnatic did it. Mouse Sports did it. Complex E has done it now, a fellow NA team. Na'Vi has done it. So this, if we get to the end of ESL Rio and they haven't won one of these big trophies, that would be 10 months, like a couple of days off, 10 months without a meaningful trophy for a lineup this good. So the big problem is, as a coach, I already wondered, what does he actually do? Like, I could absolutely imagine, seen his videos for many years, I've even heard some of the comms from past teams he was in, I've spoken to many of his former teams, I could absolutely imagine he's a good analyst, looks at the demos, points out fundamentals, preps you with a game plan. The problem is, in timeouts, that seems to be the basic things he's doing. It reminds me actually of what I'm a Pet does in Evil Geniuses. Like, it's very underwhelming, the idea that's like a coach. Like, I think we need to change that term. Just call it analyst or something. Like, calling that a coach, that's not coaching to me. You're not really modifying much about what's going on in the game. You're not giving people the advice they need. So I think it's questionable as an actual coach that he plays his role, though. Like, I've heard his comms when we were at Blast Premier. He wasn't saying much in some of those timeouts. Sometimes it was players talking. I was very underwhelmed with his input. Even some of the input he made in the game, some of which didn't seem correct. He didn't seem to have a good read on what was happening. It reminded me of when he was an in-game leader in that sense. Then add in his team. Of all the top teams, it feels like this team takes the least timeouts. Like, even when they're in trouble, even when they're getting beaten 5, 6 rounds in a row, when they're in trouble on a side where you have to win that half, they're just not taking timeouts. Like, you look at an Astralis, the other team, they take timeouts exactly when they should. It's like coaches in basketball. It's obvious when you're supposed to take the time out to stop a run, stop people getting fucked up. Like, I find it ridiculous. So I also think an issue he has in this particular team. Now, here's the key thing. I don't necessarily think Adren is a bad coach for every top team. I just think he's not the right coach for this team, because the coach, in terms of skill set and in terms of personality, I think has to fit his team in terms of what they need. Because if I look at this team, I don't see Adren as a leader in terms of like bringing the morale up, in terms of keeping a fighting spirit, in terms of getting people out of a funk individually in the game. And they already lack for those aspects in terms of the balance across the rest of the team. There's only Stewie 2K does any of that as far as I can tell. Now, I'm not one of these people like Sponge who makes that like the whole thing, like that's why they're losing. No, I do think it's a factor though as to why psychologically the team is so brittle. Like at the moment, they can just get completely rocked by the wrong opponent facing them. Admittedly, it's often only Astralis, but even so, the way they crumble against that team and then not against anyone else is bonkers. Like, Mouse Sports pucking wish Team Liquid would pull up and turn up and play like they do against Astralis. When they play against Mouse Sports, they're just straight banging them. They just go play it straight up in your face, win all the duels, and Mouse Sports like, what the fuck is this? Where's the team that we saw just bending over, rolling over and dying against Astralis? So I already think one of the issues in this team, in Team Liquid, was trying to play that aim and skill-heavy style, which when it worked was amazing, but when the morale of the team is shot and when people can't make any adaptations and teams have actually studied you, that's going to be tough. And I've got to say the comms generally in Team Liquid were whack. Of all the top 5 teams, they were easily the worst. And actually the only team I heard that I thought had worse comms was G2, but then G2 was winning from it and actually seemed to thrive in the chaos of their comms. Some of the comms that Team Liquid had were actually laughable. Like, it was really underwhelming. Like, the first thing I would do if I was their coach is take their comms and trim out a bunch of stuff. Say, someone, don't say that there. This is unnecessary information. Don't guess at a player's health when you don't know. What are you doing making a call from the other side of the map when you don't know what's happening at this point in time? Why are you interrupting a guy who's giving the call? Like, I had big issues. Also, in terms of Nitro, he wasn't doing a whole lot as an in-game leader, so I'm underwhelmed as to how Adren's interacting in that respect. When I've asked Team Liquid players from the past, they said back under Zeus in the Zeus Taco era of 2018, Nitro was the main caller, was calling most of the game. That's why it was more of a hybrid tactical skill style back then. So you might ask, well, why not a player? Like, why does it have to be a Dren? Why do we have to speculate? Yeah, I've heard his comms for one tournament and in the past, but why do we have to speculate that it's him? Well, the real reason is because, unlike other teams, there's not a player in this lineup that I'd immediately want to change, or that I'd be confident you could change and make the lineup better right now. So there's the key reason why I'd try changing the coach. Just like in sports, particularly in European soccer, football, the first thing you do if you have a really good squad, but it's not winning or performing to the level it should, is change the manager. It's basically what we call a coach in Europe. And that's because he really can change the whole mental state of the team, swap a couple of positions around, make better use of a player, or figure out which player to bench. And that can turn a team with no roster moves around and make them from a mid-table team to a winning team sometimes. So to me, the success in the summer, I'm sorry, I have to be cynical based on the things I know. And I have to say, I think it's in large part due to the player strength. They are three of the best players in the world and one of the absolute best in the world. And then the role balance relative to their competition. In terms of the teams they were matching up against, they were playing teams with good tactics like Astralis, but that was an underpowered team individually because of the Blast era. Then they were playing against Ents, tactically really good team, but really underpowered skill-wise. Playing Vitality, underpowered skill-wise, but one really truly godlike carry player. Na'Vi wasn't in the mix as much and was fucking around with the lineup. It was the end of that particular lineup as well. Then you had the whole, and didn't have a proper coach. Then who else have we even got in the mix at that point in time? Like NRG wasn't that relevant. They didn't used to win tournaments back then. Fnatic was solid, but they weren't the team they are now with Golden. Mouse Sports hadn't changed the roles and switched all up. So I'm not hating on their era. I think that actually their period of time, it is debatable as to whether you even want to call it an era. It was that dominant. Like, what's crazy is they were very, very good. But I look at who they have to face now and what they need now, and they're not at the level they were at the summer, and now they're having real problems in terms of some of the matchups. Because the thing is, this lineup is not one you want to rush to take apart and dismantle. This is a special five-man lineup. Every player in this team was a star of a former team they played on. Nitro in Team Liquid, Elysian Team Liquid, Twists in this Team Liquid, but also Misfits going back. Obviously Naf in Renegades, to some degree at times in this Team Liquid, and Stewie back in Cloud9. So you don't want to take pieces like that, especially that have now found their roles and split them up. Like, the summer showed their real ability. It showed the potential that was in that team. Not only did they have the 22 series in a row won, second all time, by the way, but they had a span of time where from like IEM Sydney to I think the series they lost against Astralis in the quarterfinals of the Major, I think the stat was they won 31 out of 32 series played over like 4 to 5 months span. That is unbelievable. Astralis, Fnatic, SK, none of these teams have ever done anything approaching that. That's how dominant this team was. Then you look at the actual map pool. The win rate was incredible across the map pool. Famously, Mirage only crept up by the time of the Major when some of the other maps have fallen away, where people noticed, wait a minute, they've got a fucking 15-game win streak on that nobody noticed because it wasn't a map that they picked. It was a map they played in deciders of, people picked it against them. So you see what a crazy squad they had. The stats were incredible across the board. So I'd rather give this same Arsenal to someone else. I'd rather give this talent to another guy and give him a chance before I give up on this particular five-man line and make a player change. Because there will never be another team like this, but that has that level of performance and dominance and success. That's the key thing. You can put together superstar lineups. They often won't work. Majority of times they won't. This lineup, for me, five-man lineup, is the most skilled lineup, both in totality and man for man, in the history of this game. It's even better than that Face Clan lineup of Olafmeister and Guardian and Rain and Nico and Carrigan, because first of all, Carrigan wasn't that great skill-wise back then, and some of the names in that team, particularly Olafmeister and on occasion Guardian, their names were bigger and had too much prestige for their actual game at that point in time. So another reason why you don't want to split this lineup is any piece you let go can make another team stronger or even a contender. So potentially one of your rivals and could come back to bite you. Perhaps with the exception of Nitro. I mean, I can think of a few teams, maybe someone like, we won't go into that now, but there's a few teams out there I might put him into. Well, I think he could probably do a better job on. But all the other pieces, you want to keep them still. Like, the trio of Elige, Twists, and Nav have to stay together. That is just too good in terms of now and potential. Like, these guys can be champions any year for the next 5 years, potentially. This is like that core of Astralis that you wanted to keep together. They've got the right age. They're still very young. Experience. They've got enough experience now that they can compete at the top level and they're ready to challenge for the biggest titles and have won them already in certain cases except the Major. They've got the insane skill level and all three styles in theory can fit together. I know they have had to move around Twists and Naf depending on how they go in this lineup, but I feel like you can make all three coexist and still be incredibly good. A team of this caliber, though, let's be absolutely clear here. The expectation is to be number one. It is to win trophies. It's even to potentially be the greatest team ever. Having top finishes, making finals, winning a small trophy, that is not enough. A team like this has to win the big trophies. That's the whole potential that the lineup has. That's the premise it must live up to. Now, obviously, when it comes to replacing Adren, because when I say fire, we really just mean replace. It's not as harsh as it sounds, but it does mean he wouldn't have a job with Team Liquid anymore. You got to replace him, in my opinion, with someone with strong leadership qualities, who has a solid idea of the fundamentals since they play so team heavy and off defaults at the moment, and then someone who can also work to put some of the players in the right roles. We've heard of Twists and NAF, etc., how sometimes they've been in roles they didn't necessarily want, but sometimes it worked. I feel like you have to have the guy who can actually tell someone, it's better for you to do this, even if you don't want to. That's what happened with Ragin and Rops in Mousespots. One of the reasons that lineup turned around after so many months of mediocrity relative to what they're doing now, making every fucking final. So in terms of names out there, I mean, he probably wouldn't go. He's a pretty loyal guy and he's in a very good team right now. But I would say Kassad from 100 Thieves should be the obvious slam dunk person. He's good in all those senses. Really strong mentality, winner's mindset, won't tolerate bullshit, strong understanding of the fundamentals, can work to make them a hybrid tactical team, has worked without a great IGL before, will put people in their right roles, is hungry for success. I think he would be an amazing pickup for them. I think YNK, Yanko, would be a good pickup because he's got that fierce mentality. Again, he's probably not going to leave FaZe, he's with his boy Nico, but I think someone else who could maybe turn it around. Also, someone who's willing to embrace like the force buy, low buy style. That's one of the classics of what made Team Liquid a very, very strong team, even in the last few months. As crazy as it might sound, because he already had his chance, bearing in mind what a bad state MIBR's in, and I personally look at that up and I wonder if those players are even going to be in MIBR in a couple of years. How about the return of Zeus? Yeah, the guy who used to be their coach in 2018. As I said, I personally think he kind of got the jam jar lid almost off, and then they made an upgrade in terms of one of the positions for Stewie over Taco. And I think he could have had similar success. I won't say he would have done. I give credit to Adren in that sense. He did do it. But I think if you look at an even stronger Team Liquid lineup, and now the trials and tribulations they've been through, I think Zeus, you give them this lineup, he's got a really strong mindset, and he will manage the morale of the team. And someone like Stewie, I'm pretty sure, would love to work with a guy like that. So I think he could do serious work with a lineup like this. I think he could even bring them back to something of a hybrid tactical skill-based team, just like he did with Nitro in the past. Make it, yes, stack more towards the aim-heavy style, but don't make it just default to no plan B when things go wrong, like I've heard in some of the comms on some of these games. So they're the people I would pick. The thing is, at this point in time, 10 months without a trophy would be too much. At that point in time, when you're in a team, an Astralis, a Team Liquid, maybe even like an EG, that sort of level, at that point in time, someone else gets to have a go if you can't win. This video was kindly supported by Alexander Rao, Andrew, Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer, Dean Tanglis, Chi Mao, JDubs, NateDOhDoubleG, Peter the Feeder, Tobias Bernasconi, and a special thanks, as always, goes out to Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you want to ask me a question in my monthly AMA. Would you like teasers for who the next guests are on my shows? Maybe you even want to take part in an niche, obscure esports discussion with me. We'll put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today at the Patreon link in the description box below.